Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the Sonrisa Dance podcast. Bleh, get tongue-tied sometimes. I wanted to get started with getting the series going. I thought I was going to be waiting a little longer to post episode 2 because I wanted this to really be more of like an interview show. But at the same time, I was thinking to myself, one, that's kind of an excuse of me waiting to post and start making some of the series. And two, scheduling is tough. I'm working a lot, and then just even scheduling time to meet up with people because schedules are very difficult to align with and get an interview going. So that's been a little difficult for at least the people I had in mind for who I wanted to start off interviewing first. But I figured, no, I really want to get this series going and talking about certain issues that I really think are things that we need to bring up now because they are issues now. Probably even more so than I really know. I just wanted to, at least for this one, also give some insight or some thoughts. Like, I want to ask questions and just give you my perspective on things and even ask you guys what your opinions are or what your experiences are on these topics I want to bring up. So I won't just wait for interviews. I will also be uploading conversations to you guys just by myself. And so this one I wanted to really focus on at least the general ideas of going out to the dance community and that whole big background culture that's not really talked about, but it's there, of drinking in the scene, which inevitably kind of leads into that discussion on consent and things that happen on both on the dance floor and off the dance floor. So a quick recap for that. I started thinking about this a little more recently because I had recently gone to the Soup Shop the Dance event, which if you guys have never been, I definitely recommend because Shiloh and John are really great and they host a wonderful event. But the Soup Shop event I went to this past Saturday. I went out and I danced, and I typically go out and I do enjoy having a drink or two, obviously never making a mess, John, Shiloh, or any other promoters who have events. I go out and I dance, and I don't like getting too drunk, at least I hope I don't get too drunk, because I know that can pose a problem for safety and stuff like that when I'm dancing, which is something that's always on my mind when I'm dancing. I don't ever want to hurt or injure somebody. And I do see sometimes when I'm out dancing, people who do get a little too drunk, and obviously there's people falling on the floor and, all that kind of stuff that's happening, because they're not being mindful of the fact that they are, not only taking care of themselves, but taking care of each other, both the people they're dancing with and the people around them. And that's how some of the accidents and stuff happening, not having enough awareness around them. But another big thing is just the whole idea of consent and doing any kind of I don't even know what to call it, just kissing or even just anything else, especially some of this becomes a lot more exacerbated when you're at a festival, because then people can go up to the rooms and whatever happens behind closed doors, it's I was going to say it's their business, but not really. And that's the thing, that's where consent and things get a little tricky, because again, especially with just a lot of scenes where people drink and stuff like that, that idea of consent becomes a little difficult. And because I constantly see people sometimes trying to make out with people on the dance floor, and that's not something they want to reciprocate or even let on, and so that's something that's it's just been on my mind, just because especially because I dance more bachata, and especially in that dance it gets very sensual, gets very close, and so there's a lot of times where the dance can get hot and heavy, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's an invitation to do things and stuff. Obviously knowing that, obviously, I don't share about it very often, but obviously I am in a relationship, for those who know me, and whenever I get somebody who I'm dancing with, who, I understand we're dancing close, but then anytime, they cross that line of touching me inappropriately, and even attempted to kiss me and stuff on the dance floor, which has happened. Most of the time for me, I just shrug it off like, hey, it's cool. Let's not do that and stuff. But like I'm thankful being a guy, and it's potentially a lot easier for me to give that no. And it started like bringing up to me the fact that obviously that happens a lot more to you ladies out there, and that's definitely a lot bigger of an issue for you because that's a lot harder to say no, and not necessarily just saying no, but also just sometimes like some of that stuff catches you off guard, and you may be shocked about what to do, or especially if it's not just like attempting to kiss, but what if someone takes advantage and gropes you or sexually assaults you in any way. And I don't, for a lot of these people, there's not enough of a conversation of like, okay, like I don't have anything against people hooking up and stuff in the dance scene. Like you do you, like you're with the way you want to live your life in your relationships and stuff like that, whether you're single or in, like some kind of open relationship or anything like that. I don't judge. I'm not here to judge any of you guys if that's you have an open communication line for that. But when it happens and like you're not okay with it, like somebody takes advantage of you or things like that, I know that's a really big problem. And I mean, like it's one thing to hear about and knowing about like dancers who do that. And I mean, I'm like, I'll be open and honest. Even though I've never felt like I've intentionally taken advantage of somebody, like, that's my perspective. And I've never, like, I don't know if that's ever come across that way, whenever I've done acts in that way. And, I have to be honest, like, I don't know if that's what they consider those actions that I did. And if I did, like, I don't know if there's any way that I could ever apologize and make up for that, if I ever made them feel uncomfortable or anything like that. And so, yeah, and I understand that's difficult. Well, not even just difficult, but I mean, that's something that should be common sense, like, if you're going to attempt to do something, I feel like you should always ask. You should never be like, oh, okay, let's just do this. But even then, like, especially doing it while you're drunk, that's, like, not even really a yes. And so, I don't know, just that idea of, like, I don't really even know how to solve this. Like, that's something I've just been really seriously thinking about. I know it's an honest issue, and, yeah, like, it's, for us dancers who experience this all the time, I think is terrible. But I think another thing that recently got brought up to me is just like knowing of people who are instructors and take advantage of the position to try to even maybe potentially take advantage of. I don't, unless I talk to somebody like firsthand, and even then, even if I knew, I don't know if I would personally want to share it publicly unless they personally wanted to share it publicly, because that's something that's very difficult to share, especially if somebody who's taken advantage of you is an instructor, or somebody who is an important face of a community, whether that's salsa, bachata, zouk, kizomba, like that kind of behavior isn't okay. Especially if it's like a repeat offender, or or whatever, or even once, it's not okay. And yeah, like I don't know. Like honestly, I would like to hear more from you guys. Like, what do you guys think we should, or what could we potentially do? Like to help that kind of situation, like to avoid people from being taken advantage of, in a way that they don't consent. Because like again, I don't want to like judge. If you guys want to hook up and do whatever in the dance community, like again, that's like personal life stuff. Like I don't care. You can do whatever you want as long as it's consented. You guys talking about it and stuff like that. But yeah, like I don't know. I've just been super curious about that. I've been really curious about being more open and talking about anybody who who is constantly doing this kind of stuff, and maybe finding a way to share or post about it. Actually, something I've thought about recently, having in mind, especially for getting more responses from you guys. Even though anybody who's listening to this, feel free. If there's anything you ever want to talk to me about that's you don't necessarily want it going public. You just want an opinion or just want to share an experience just to like, I don't know, get more insight or even just have somebody to talk to because anything that anybody tells me, I have to earn your trust. But if you're willing to give me that trust, I promise I would never share that kind of information. But yeah, anybody can feel free to message me, direct message me, either Instagram or Facebook or wherever you find me. But if not, I've been thinking about even hosting a public group, just so the community could keep each other updated when any like serious offenders or whatever, are in the dancing and they need to be taken like note of because, if we can prevent even one other person from being taken advantage of, then that's important. And I applaud the event like coordinators or organizers who take a strong stance for that kind of stuff. That's why, like, honestly, this one I probably the biggest one and the first one that comes to mind that I really have to give a big props to is Astro from PCH in Long Beach. I think he does a fantastic job of, if somebody is being taken advantage of, he acts and just, outright bans them off the property. It's the best we can do in that situation. We can't undo what they did, but I think that's at least an amazing thing to tell you, hey, you've committed something that's really bad. You're no longer permitted in this community because this community no longer has your trust. And that's something I feel like a lot more people and a lot more promoters should really promote. If that's honestly an issue, like that's something we should really stand for together. And if not just the event coordinators, then us together as a community. And so yeah, like I've been thinking about starting most likely a Facebook group. Most likely, I'm thinking about calling it the Sonrisa Dance Community, to kind of share these kind of things, and because as the more we know, the better. And but yeah, I'm curious to ask you guys, and if either you go through there or when I post about this second episode, if you guys are willing to share with me, or even direct message, like what do you guys think are potential ideas for helping out with like this whole this bad etiquette that's like in our dance culture sometimes, that not enough people are taught proper manners, like for fuck's sakes. Like you need to people's boundaries are there for a reason. Like if you don't have permission to be there, you shouldn't be there. And especially with like dances, they get very sensual and things like. I don't really and I come from a perspective that mostly dances bachata, and I'm starting to get a little bit into kids. But I would totally, I want to get more into the salsa and the zouk community in case it's also a problem in there. But yeah, it's one thing to be dancing in a dance and being sensual, and enjoying that for the dance. Because that's the way you interpret the music and your connection with your partner. But when you no longer, it's no longer the dance, like, is that okay? Like what you're doing? Do you know that's okay? Do both people say that that's okay? And so, yeah, I mean, again, I don't know, I really, really want to know more from you guys. If there's any way that we can improve this situation. And yeah, I mean, I don't know, I really don't know what else to say. Like, it's just really, really terrible. And so yeah, I know alcohol has quite a bit to do with it. Although, I mean, I've seen a lot of people who also do it who I don't believe probably were even remotely drunk. They just honestly took advantage, especially the people who I've seen who are, sleazy assholes who just dance with beginners just to take advantage of them. That's like a far too common one. Usually from older men who are in the dance community who are really just there just because they want to take advantage of people. But I mean, sometimes it happens again with other dancers who are younger and even instructors and stuff, people abusing their power. Um, and so yeah, I don't know. Please reach out to me. I really want to know more. As far as drinking, uh, yeah, I mean that's also another problem. Like I just in and of itself sometimes. I mean, just well, obviously in the dance community, one is uh, uh, the one potentially the quality of dance, whether or not your partner's really enjoying dancing with you when you're that drunk, and whether or not you know that could lead to potentially a more harmful dance, like especially some people performing more more technique driven or more focus driven movements like dips and lifts. Um, you definitely, I don't know, that gets a little trickier, especially when you're drunk. Um, I have nothing against drinking. Again, I drink all the time, but I do think that when you do it, you should be very conscious of what you're doing, even more so than when you're sober sometimes, because again, it's a lot more difficult. Um, just another side note for drinking, at least for those of you who are drinking out there, please be respectful for the people who are throwing the events and actually clean up after your shit. Like, that's, like, who fucking raised you? Like, at the very least, keep it in your car and throw it away when you're done. Like, I feel bad for all these people who are renting venues and things like that and have to stay an extra hour or two fucking cleaning up for you because nobody taught you manners to, throw your trash away. Like, at the very least, recycle, I don't know, throw in the trash. Throw a trash can. Like, it's not that hard. Um, yeah, I mean, that's another issue. I mean, if you see somebody, probably even tell them, like, hey, like, shit, even if you see me, fuck, and you're drinking, fuck it, I'll throw it away. Like, give it to me. I don't mind keeping it in the car until I can throw it away. Throw it away when I'm at work. I don't care. At least it's better than you littering. Um, yeah, I mean, please feel free to even, like, if you ever see me out social dancing, like, feel free to hit me up for a conversation if there's something you'd like to discuss with me. If you don't feel like being on the podcast, either sharing your face and voice for this, I still think anything you have to say to me is important, and I find that valuable. And if I can't, if you don't want to share it directly, then I can share it for you. Yeah, that's more or less everything I guess I had for this episode. Yeah, if I could figure out a way to work things out, because I'm just for those of you who are curious about being interviewed. I'm working a lot. I usually work from like 1 to 9, and so late nights, which is kind of difficult for most people. And it's kind of hard for me to get up really early because I work graveyard on Sundays, and so Sundays and Mondays tend to be like the only free time in the daytime for anyone who's free. But yeah. Anyways, that's enough of me ranting and just kind of going in circles. I feel like that's what I was doing a little bit. But yeah, if there's anything you guys feel like you have some input, please let me know in any way, shape, or form. And I look forward to talking to you again. Alright, guys. See you on the dance floor.